Okay, so let's go right down the list in the order that's set forth. 1510.
Senate Bill number 1510 establishes permanent daylight savings time in New Jersey. There are proposed committee amendments for this bill. The proposed committee amendments remove a temporal reference to the establishment of daylight savings time and make technical changes.
Okay. Shirley, you want to say anything on this bill before we start? Do you want to say anything about the bill? Okay. I think the bill's kind of self-explanatory. We have some folks that want to testify. In favor, Lisa Chapman. Lisa, you here? No need to testify. Michael Garrahan, save standard time. Opposed? Michael, you here? Yes. Come on up. State your name and go to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I am Michael Garrahan. I represent Save Standard Time. We are a national nonprofit headquartered in Arizona. I am a resident of Virginia.
So you know all different times, California, Virginia.
I've been studying the issue for a few years. If you look at the written statements submitted by my associate JP, I made the maps that he submitted. Other members of the Coalition for Permanent Standard Time include the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, the Society for Research in Biological Rhythms, the Sleep Research Society. All right, well, since the existing statute mentions the 75th meridian west of Greenwich, it's worth mentioning that that is right here in New Jersey, in the western part of the state. It goes through Camden and Vineland, and that's something I feel New Jersey ought to embrace. If you've heard of Greenwich Mean Time, that just means in that time scale, solar noon in Greenwich on average is at 12 o'clock. Local mean time here is only 1 minute ahead of Eastern Standard Time. And if you were to switch to daylight time year-round, that would be 59 minutes ahead of your local solar time. To put it another way, UTC -4 is the solar time of the 60-degree west meridian, which is 700 miles east of anywhere in New Jersey. Adopting daylight time year-round would put the latest sunrise in early January at 8:21 a.m., making it rather dark at 7:45 or 7:30 when people are commuting to their morning obligations. For 10 weeks every year, the sunrise would be 8 o'clock or later. Now, the medical community, the biological research community has weighed in firmly in favor of year-round standard time instead. The reason is that morning light is an important input to our circadian rhythm. As the morning light enters our eyes, it stimulates the production of cortisol and helps us feel alert. Evening darkness promotes melatonin and it helps us feel sleepy. And if you've ever tried to put a young child to bed in July or get a teenager out of bed in October, you know that daylight saving time interferes with those. In fact, one study we've read finds that Americans lose an average of 19 minutes of sleep every night throughout daylight saving season. Also, studies of comparing the eastern and western parts of time zones find higher rates of cancer and diabetes and fatal accidents on the western edge. And if New Jersey were to go to UTC -4, that would be even more of an outlier in what's equivalent to the Atlantic time zone than, say, Indiana or southern Idaho are now in their present zones. Some people talk about seasonal affective disorder. The usual treatment for that is to get extra bright light in the morning. And given that, it doesn't make sense to shift light away from the morning as daylight saving time does. Other studies cited by the bill author, I looked them up. The 2004 study is mostly about the transition, the weeks immediately before and after the clock change. And so extrapolating that to a whole year policy is questionable. The 2010 study, I found that, and the amount of reduction in accidents that they found was less than 1/100%. It's a small effect. Let's talk about experiences. The United States infamously tried year-round daylight time in 1974. The idea was to mitigate a foreign oil embargo, and they were going to try this for 2 years. But public discontent grew as they experienced the darker winter mornings, and Congress responded by skipping the second winter of that plan, falling back as usual. Public opinion of that policy was 79% in favor in December of 73. When the pollsters asked again in February of 74, it had plummeted to 42% in favor. Another relevant experience comes from Russia. They don't do daylight saving anymore. In 2011, they tried doing their summertime year-round. But that only lasted 3.5 years, and since 2014, they have observed the normal wintertime year-round. A researcher named Borisenkov got a good paper out of that. He did a 7-year study and found that adolescent mental health was best under the year-round standard time policy. People say, well, if people are worried about kids getting to school safely on winter mornings, just start the schools later. Well, I suggest that's a burden you should not impose on your local school boards, just to maintain their present level of transportation safety and academic performance. So I know you've got a lot on your agenda today, so I'll try to wrap this up. A lot of members of the public say, just pick one and stop switching. Does this bill achieve that? That depends on what Congress does. The bill that the Senate passed by a shortcut in 2022 died at the end of that year with no House action. Its successor is in committee. They tried the shortcut move again 2 weeks ago, and Tom Cotton stood up and said, no, not this time. And he cited the example of 1974 as part of his opposition speech. The other thing is the leading bill in Congress would impose year-round daylight time on all states not already opting out. So it seems redundant for a state to pass a year-round daylight time bill. Some states which have already done so, 5 or 6 years later, now are hearing from their voters, I thought we passed a law to change this. Why are we still changing the clocks? And now they're considering bills for year-round standard time instead. 5 states this year got such a bill to pass one chamber of the legislature, but not the other. Polls are mixed on the issue. One that we like is from Gallup. They found that given a choice between standard time year-round, even in the summer, or daylight time year-round, even in the winter, or continuing the system of changes that we have, they found that 48% preferred year-round standard time, 24% preferred year-round daylight time, and 19% preferred to keep switching. So, in conclusion, I respectfully ask this committee to not advance this bill and instead consider S4084 from the same sponsor. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thanks again. And Shlomo Schorr, are you here? Probably mispronounced your name. Come on up. Opposed. Introduce yourself and go to it.
Good Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Shlomo Schorr. I'm the Legislative Director of Agudath Israel of America's New Jersey office. And I'm here today to speak on behalf of Orthodox Jewish communities across New Jersey and the 75,000 students specifically who attend 200-day schools across this great state. Understandably, many of us are fed up with having to change our clocks or having our phones change their times twice a year. However, we'd like to voice our concerns specifically about this bill and our opposition to the selection of daylight saving time as a permanent year-round choice. We wish to emphasize the detrimental impact this bill would have on the Orthodox Jewish communities of New Jersey because of the requirements of our faith. Our morning service rituals and prayers required of all adults of our faith are time-based, with some prayers only to be recited after sunrise. If daylight saving time would be instituted year-round, services in the winter months would not be able to start before 8 or 8:30 in the morning at the earliest. As services take between 40 minutes to an hour each morning, we would place a severe burden on members of our faith, forcing them to make difficult choices between observance of the morning services and coming to work on time. Employers would look for any excuse to avoid hiring members of our community, and faced with shrinking opportunities, people will be forced to sacrifice their livelihoods, be false to their beliefs, or relocate, creating a very difficult environment for many New Jerseyans. I respectfully ask that the members of this committee help the state maintain its well-deserved reputation for hospitality to members of all faiths and beliefs, and report unfavorably on this bill 1510. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony. Never realized that. Thank you. Very important. Okay. Anybody have any questions of the sponsor? I'm just going to give you my observation. Shirley and I had this conversation before, so she knows. My dad was a milkman. He used to leave the house at 6 o'clock in the morning, go fill up his truck, and then go out and deliver milk. He waited for standard time to come into play because otherwise he was in the dark all day long. So, I mean, there's always debates on both sides of the coin, but I know the logic behind it is good, but I can understand arguments on both sides. Obviously, I'm going to vote in favor of the bill to release it today, but there are two sides to the story, and thank you for your testimony. Okay. Motion second? Second. Roll call?
On the motion to amend and release Senate Bill 1510, Senator Tyver? Yes. Senator Hosoffel? Yes. Senator Turner? Yes. Senator Berzicelli? Yes. Vice Chair Mukherjee? Yes. Chairman Diegnan?
Yes.
The bill is released.